All right, awesome. So let's get into it. So, welcome everyone on this wonderful Friday. Um, this is our, I think, fourth session of our Wellness Week series. So, we've had a strength series, chair yoga, meditation, and now we're kind of rounding out the week with a more holistic wellness discussion with the amazing founders of Fitbiomics. So we'll get into it. I'll just give an overview of like how the session will run, but super casual conversation, open, honest conversation. Any questions that anyone has, feel free to drop them in the chat. But we'll use this to learn more about you guys, why you started Fitbiomics, dive into a little product discussion and just general gut health and wellness and why it's so important. So with that, I'll start. I'm Camille. I'm the marketing lead at Fitbiomics. I joined end of the year, handling all things marketing and really getting to the wonderful world of microbiome and gut health and stuff. It's been super exciting. So really happy to work with you guys and would love to learn a little bit more about each of you. So let's start with John. Who are you? Why'd you start Fitbiomics? And just give us your spiel.
Man, that's such a deep question. Who am I? Who I am? It's like that Billy Crystal analyze this routine. But yeah, I guess I could just say John Scheiman, co-founder and CEO of Fitbiomics. New York City kid, went to Fame High School playing the tuba, then played basketball at St. John's University. Didn't make the MBA, so I got a PhD in biomedicine from NYU as a backup. Then found my way to Harvard Medical School to work on biotechnology and synthetic biology. Made a lot of cool discoveries around the microbiome and started Fitbiomics. And the goal is to create next gen health solutions and make them broadly accessible to many populations.
Nice. Alex, you're up.
Yeah, I'm Alex Kostic. I'm an assistant professor of microbiology at Harvard Medical School and affiliated with Joslin Diabetes Center. So I'm an academic, but I've been involved with Jonathan in this work for 9 years now, and I'm a co-founder of Fitbiomics, and have been recently spending as much time as I can that Harvard will allow working with Fitbiomics and helping to develop our research and discovery and making progress with it. And it's just been an amazing road for me as an academic, seeing the work that we do make it out into the world in such a accelerated way that is just there's really no other parallel in biology, to the fast pace at which we work. So it's just been an incredible journey.
We'll get more into that later. Carolina.
Yeah, nice to meet everyone. I'm Carolina, and I'm also a co-founder. And I met John 6 years ago, I believe. So it hasn't been as long as Alex, but it's been quite a while. And my role is Chief Innovation and Growth Officer, and I really think about how to translate all the science and technology that these geniuses discover and figure out how to bring them to the world in a commercially viable product that consumers can access and enjoy and feel the benefits. So thinking about everything from our brand ethos to our go-to-market strategies and really tapping into those consumer insights and figuring out what people need and how do we really address some of those need states with simple, easy to include, affordable solutions.
Cool. Awesome. So I think the first question that I think everyone wants to know is just kind of what was the inspiration behind Fitbiomics? What's your mission? How did you all get together? You kind of touched on it a little bit, but if you want to start there, I think that would be something interesting that everyone wants to hear.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I could go first. I think everyone on a team has their own origin story or what motivates them or makes them passionate. I guess what I could say is, almost mission accomplished, working with Alex Kostic for 9 years, one of the best, if not the best microbiome scientists in the world, and keeping him engaged, and then working with Carolina Barsa, coming from her background in engineering and translation and consumer product development for 6 years. I think we're all united by this powerful vision, right, of creating next gen health solutions and using microbiome innovations to do it. And I could just say for me and my background, growing up in Greenwich Village, going to Fame High School, I just love this notion of diversity and bringing diverse communities together, from pop culture to cutting edge biotechnology to create something that's truly transformative, but yet tangible for society. And I think from my background, biotechnology, traditional pathways are 10 years and $1 billion to develop a drug, right? And if you look at sort of, the critical health needs in society today, we need to do a better job of making health innovations more accessible in an accelerated manner for the general population. So these are some of the things that motivate me, bringing diverse people together to create something transformative that will have a profound impact on society.
Nice.
That was kind of grandiose, but it's good to have a big vision.
No, yeah, no, I love it. That's also why I joined the company. So just in terms of like accessibility, how are you making, just for ease of discussion, how are you making it accessible? Is that like price point, or is that just like the speed to market? And can you go a little bit more into that?
Yep.
Carolina?
Sure, I'll take it. I think what's really exciting is, and John talks about this all the time, but if you look at traditional pharmaceutical industry, it's 10 years, $10 billion to bring a drug to market. And they're generally very expensive. You probably need a prescription from your doctor. They're not necessarily always natural. There's various side effects that can come from that, but they're not exactly accessible. If you think about insulin and a lot of these other drugs, very expensive. So our approach is taking the same rigor in terms of the science and the research and the quality and the efficacy that we put behind our innovations, but making them accessible through easy finished products that anyone can purchase, whether they're purchasing them on our site or through a partnership program, but really anyone can access them and take them and incorporate them in their day-to-day life. And they're at a very affordable price point. It's cheaper than a cup of coffee, if you will, right? And so for us, it's about the idea of speed to market, being able to accelerate what is relevant in today's world. So looking at the people who are thriving in the modern world, figuring out what's really unique and enriched in them, and allowing them to live their healthiest, best lives and perform at their best, and making that accessible to everybody in a very rapid rate. And so what we've done with Nella, as well as with Vionella coming to market soon, is exactly that, is from discovery all the way to market. So microbiome to market concept, making it available so anyone can access it.
Cool. And in terms of like, studying like the most elite athletes or the super fit, why them? Why is it so important to study that microbiome? And how are you leveraging that data, just for everyone to understand? Maybe Alex, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, it's a great question, and this is what makes our approach, I think, so unique, and really, starting with Jonathan's vision at the beginning of this, and in focusing on elite athletes. Generally, when we study the microbiome, we study how it goes wrong in various diseases, and when we compare those people with disease to a healthy population, we have a very broad definition of health that's very fuzzy and unexact. And generally speaking, it's anyone with a body mass index that's not overweight and that does not currently have a chronic disease. Of course, I think it's important to understand that defining health, it has many different levels, and something that we in medicine and science should better appreciate. This goes back to the whole notion of medicine is oriented around fixing things rather than promoting health and keeping you healthy. That's a major mission behind Fitbiomics, and something that is just simply not receiving enough attention in the whole medical field. So when we think about who are the healthiest people to study, then there are various, of course, options, different populations of people around the earth that are healthier, centenarians, for example, or people that live in regions where I guess they tend to live longer. But I think the argument is very strong for, as a single population, that athletes, extremely rare, particularly when considering professional athletes, and they're the kind of people that their job is on the line, keeping themselves as healthy, as fit, mentally and physically as possible, because that's their career. And I think, what they can achieve is something truly extraordinary, as we witness, and records continuously being broken in kind of the definition of what the human body can accomplish, kind of being redefined continuously. So that's really what's unique here, and about Fitbiomics is that focus on how do you make people healthy or keep them healthy, and looking to athletes as the kind of place to discover these things.
I just
Cool.
wanted to add to that too, and just tying back into sort of this notion of diversity, but also just radically reimagining sort of how we could access health, right? And looking at diverse populations, but really rare populations. And again, just this notion, as Alex was saying and Carolina was saying, rather than, creating drugs to treat disease, right? Creating preventative health, modalities to keep people healthy or promote health. And then again, to Alex's point, rather than looking at disease populations from a biological standpoint, taking the exact opposite approach. And, to expand upon what Alex was saying, elite athletes, they're as rare as centenarians, right? They both represent the 0.01% of the human population. And if you think of all these physiological benefits in terms of neurology, immunology, metabolism, for athletes, they're basically selecting things of that nature for endurance, strength, mental toughness. So we're basically identifying microbes that drive these processes and now are making them available to everyone to promote health and human performance from sort of a microbiome probiotic perspective.
And I would add one small thing to all this, is that we're not trying to mask symptoms. We're not trying to put a Band-Aid on something. We're really getting to the root cause of what drives health and what triggers some of these symptoms that people experience. And by addressing those root causes, we're able to help people undo the symptoms, but by healing themselves, not by masking it. And so this concept of prevention and really getting to the root cause of what drives various symptoms, whether it's insomnia or IBS or, fatigue, whatever it is, that we can really address by doing so in a very natural, holistic way.
Cool. And it sounds like you guys can study a lot of different, like, elite microbiomes to create different health solutions as well. So it goes beyond just your sleep, or there's probably a million, I don't know about a million, but different chronic health solutions. And you guys are able to like study all these different kind of microbiomes and create different products for people so that they can address it head on.
Yeah. Well, actually, Camille, to your point about numbers and trying to quantify how massive this opportunity is, right? I mean, I think everyone knows we're as much bacteria as we are human. We have trillions of microorganisms in and on our body. And if you look at a gene level, right, humans have 20,000, protein encoding genes in their DNA. There's 100 times more bacterial genes in our body than human genes, right? So, you're talking about natural selection from the most fit people in the world and identifying these trillions of microbes that are driving optimal health. And now what we're doing is we're translating that into consumer health solutions that everyone can benefit from. So it's such a, again, radical idea compared to traditional consumer health or even therapeutic means, but that's what makes it so disruptive.
Yeah, cool. And also like a more natural approach too, versus like, going to the doctor and getting prescribed a pill that you don't really know what's in it. At least, this is like a more like holistic kind of natural approach, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Biologically inspired.
Yes, there we go. Awesome. So my next question is just around general gut health. Like, why is it so important? Like, obviously there's a lot of like gut health brands, probiotics, supplements, everything. And like, I know why it's, good for you, but like, can you dig in a little bit deeper as to why gut health is so important and how it affects your overall health?
Maybe Alex should take this one.
Yeah, happy to. This is something that's a kind of a growing appreciation and understanding in medicine generally, the central importance of the gut, and then even more recently in the whole ecosystem of the bacteria that live there, the microbiome. So the gut is connected to virtually every organ system in the body, and just as a key example is the brain, because the gut has its own nervous system, the enteric nervous system, these neurons, and almost like its own mini brain, that traverses the entire intestinal system from the all the way in the stomach, the esophagus, all the way down to the colon, and these neurons communicate with directly with the brain through the spinal cord, and so this is something that is in some ways easy to appreciate. With the rise of drugs like Ozempic, this is a drug that controls eating behavior, but it's all regulated in the gut. It works in the gut, and from the gut communicates to the brain, and controls how hungry you feel. Just as an example, but the gut is, of course, closely tied to the other major organs, the heart, the lungs. What happens in the gut is felt throughout the body, and we begin to appreciate if the health of our gut is diminished in some way, and this will often happen because there's less of a mucus layer that serves as a barrier between the contents of the gut and the actual tissue of the gut, and this leads to a leakiness of the gut. So material from the lumen gets into the tissue and then into the circulation in the blood. This leads to can lead to tremendous problems. And translocation of bacteria to different parts of the body. So this is how the gut is centrally important, and then the gut microbiome on top of that. And but maybe I'll just leave it just the gut, generally speaking, right now.
Yeah, so super important. And that I just also have another question to build on that. Obviously, how the gut reacts is different depending on like gender, biology, etc. But for women, I know I've been reading a lot about just like, I would get served articles on how important it is to take care of my gut, especially because women have like specific issues that we might deal with versus other genders. So Carolina, would love to hear your take on just like why gut health is so important, especially for women.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think a couple of things, just even building on Alex's point, as we think about our everyday lifestyles today and all of the impacts we have around whether it's taking antibiotics, which, the use of antibiotics really has a severe impact on your gut microbiome and the diversity, even aging, but things like stress, alcohol, lack of sleep, all of that can have your diet, eating processed foods, et cetera. All that has a very key impact on your microbiome and how much diversity you have in your gut to help support that healthy flora for overall immunity. And when we think about women, we know 70% of our immunity comes from our gut. When we, generally speaking, this is all people, 95% of serotonin is made in the gut. So it has a huge impact on your overall well-being. And for women especially, we have a lot of factors that will actually cause us to have more issues. So between even our hormonal cycles, fluctuations throughout the month causes a lot of fluctuations even in the gut diversity in your microbiome. We have longer intestines. We also experience a lot more severity in certain conditions. So if you think about sleep, for example, we know 1 in 3 Americans experiences insomnia, but women are 40% more likely to experience insomnia than men. So that is a factor that also has a huge impact on health and well-being and your gut health. We also know that women experience a lot more autoimmune conditions. I think 80% of all people who suffer from an autoimmune disease are women. And all of that really has huge impacts on how your body processes everything and how you experience various symptoms. So, as we think about all these different factors, whether it's needing more sleep. I think I shared an article with you recently, Camille, about just women. There's more studies coming out that women actually need, I think, 9 hours of sleep versus the 8 hours or whatever it is. So experiencing a lot more fatigue. We also are exposed to a lot more endocrine disruptors throughout our lifetime, between lotions, makeup, etc. And so that also has another impact. And all of these factors, and as we age, your microbiome can play a huge role in various symptoms that you experience, as Alex explain just the connection it has with everything. So I think as we really think about women and women's health, and we can start to explore more phenotypes that are women who don't experience such severe symptoms in various stages, whether it be fertility or menopause or anything, how do we really start to tap into those and understand how the microbiome can have a huge implication to support some of the symptoms that come with these areas. And what's really exciting is our products today actually already address some of the symptoms that are most commonly experienced by women. And even from a digestive perspective, I think 75% of women experience more IBS or gut issues versus 56% of men. So just all of those factors, there's a huge opportunity for us to really make sure that we're setting women up to be as healthy as they can be. And knowing that women were not including clinical trials until 1993, there's an importance of us not looking at women as small men and thinking that the same solutions will address those needs, but rather really taking a concerted effort in how we address the pain points and the factors that go into women's lifestyles, as well as, all the things we're exposed to.
Awesome.
Man. Sounds like men got it easy by comparison. Holy shit.
I mean,
Literally and figuratively. I mean, hey, it sounds like we got it pretty good. But by the way, I never heard this before. You said I love just form fits function and how it pertains to genotype, phenotype, physiology. Carolyn, you said women have longer GI tracts than men?
Yep, it's like small, but yes,
that's kind of crazy. I'm wondering, by the way, this is all like just off up. Is I wonder if that's because of like gestation and like because women have to give birth and maybe that impacts the GI, so having more elasticity is better. Like that's an interesting
I don't know why. I just know that because all of our reproductive organs take up more space. And then there's also a lot of hormonal connections throughout your cycle. Your hormones fluctuate quite a bit and they send various messages. So women will experience much more digestive issues right before and during their cycle, as opposed to the other times of the month. And there's also a lot of data around just how it changes as you age and you get into the perimenopause, menopause stages. It also starts to have fluctuations and impact. But Alex can probably talk to some of the science way better than I can.
This all makes sense. Like, I mean, to me, like just thinking of like after, especially having 2 kids and just going through, getting my cycle or whatever, I would hope there would be more space to deal with all that. That's how I'm thinking about it, but super interesting stuff.
I don't know why it would be longer. It's very minimal, but Alex, do you know why?
I don't. Yeah.
We'll have to do a part 2 and deep dive on that.
Yeah, we'll explore this.
I think, but that goes back to this historical, historically it's, generally men that have been studied, and not even, in medicine, so much of the work happens in animals before it can go into humans, and there also it tends to be very gender biased study.
Oh, wow.
Well, it's just much more expensive to do clinical studies on women because you have to account for changes in their cycle, and that messes up a lot of the data. And when you're investing money in a clinical study, you don't want anything to throw off your data because you're trying to make it look as good as possible, if you will, right? And so that's where I think we really need to think about women's health. Like, it's a growing market. I think it's a $40–50 billion market just in women's health. So there's a huge opportunity for us to really focus on how do we address the needs that are coming from women's health. And I mean, half the population is a woman, so.
I was just gonna say it's crazy that it's like an emerging market when it's like half the population, right? It's
Yeah,
sort of an established market, if you will, right?
I know,
yeah,
that's the crazy thing.
yeah.
So that's the crazy thing. Anyhow,
Cool. Um, so my next question, it goes a little bit deeper around products. So Nella is the first probiotic that you guys, or your first product that you developed for consumers. Can you speak a little bit more about Nella, the benefits, who it's for, how it came to be, etc.?
yeah, I could take
Yeah.
a deep dive on that. You know, we spun out of Harvard and the Wyss Institute for Biologically Inspired Engineering. That's a mouthful, but you know, around 6 years ago, and maybe Alex Kostic could get into the next product, and you know, we'd come off this publication in Nature Medicine about this amazing discovery, and we'll get into that. But while we were developing that, you know, we thought about, all right, how can we apply microbiome innovations to the current probiotic market? And what people may or may not know is that 90% of all probiotics actually come from lactobacillus or bifidobacterium species. The problem is they're decades old, there's been no innovation, and they mostly come from baby poop, food, animals, the environment. So we kind of had a hypothesis that we could do better than the status quo, and we could isolate probiotic species from, again, almost the finest microbiomes on Earth, and sort of use that as a selection tool to find improvements. And that's really the origins behind Nella. These are all unique strains of lactobacilli that come from super performers. We then ran open label studies to test their benefits in gut health. And actually, in addition to optimizing digestion and bowel movements, what we found empirically was actually the number one benefit is improved quality of sleep. So this was a very de novo, science-led, clinical-led discovery, and we've since followed that up with more validation, both with consumers and clinical trials. But maybe that was a long-winded of saying is we have this probiotic that's clinically validated to benefit not just gut health, but also sleep health. And this ties into things that Alex was saying in terms of gut-brain access, how digestion might be related to like brain functionality and quality of sleep. So I guess the question is who in the general population could benefit from better digestion and better sleep? And it seems like a lot of people could do that. And Nella is certainly a powerful product to help in those areas.
Yeah, I'll just add, I am a personal consumer of Nella, and I am obsessed with it. I'll share a little personal story. I have experienced IBS symptoms my entire life, or adult life. I mean, it was just bad, and I had my first colonoscopy in my early 20s. You know, certainly tried probiotics, tried different diets, and I really struggled to find something that made me feel a benefit or feel a difference. And so I wouldn't stick to things because I just didn't feel anything. And before we launched Nella, we were doing our open label study, and we had some samples in the office, and I started trying it. And I was like, all right, I think I feel something happening here. And then within 3 months, I was addicted. And I swear it's been a game changer in terms of just how it has helped me just become more regular, feel like I used to get sick all the time. I don't get sick as often. And all of that is really connected to getting my gut in check. And then even just from a mental perspective, the stress or anxiety that you have when you have, you know, bloating, or you don't fit into your clothes, or if you're at a meeting and you have to go to the bathroom and your stomach hurts, you know, it's just the emotional connection that comes with having digestive issues people don't talk about, but it's very real. And I swear Nella has been a game changer for me in that regard.
Nice.
Can I just say this is the power of science? Through science innovation and validation and consumer noticeable benefits, I've managed to retain Carolina Barsa because she's benefiting from Nella, and retain Alex Kostic because the publications and the technology.
Yeah.
This is why we're science led, so we could build communities of great people. So we always let the science do the talking.
I'm
Alex,
also benefiting from Nella in terms of my sleep regulation. I don't talk about that because I like to focus on data, and the data are strong, you know, in our you know, double-blind placebo-controlled studies of Nella. But certainly for me it's dramatically improved my sleep cycle, much more kind of regular sleep patterns, more restfulness when I wake up. but that's anecdotal evidence. It's
Yeah.
meaningful.
And it's not like a melatonin, right? Like it's just
Very good. Very good.
how would you explain, like, just for people who are new to probiotics, like what's the difference between the sleep benefits that Nella has versus like another kind of sleep aid?
I'll let Alex I want you to talk about the science, but I just want to say a bit, form fits function, natural selection. We started with these elite performers. Think about it. Sleep is the #1 performance enhancing drug. So you could imagine decoding the microbiome of these performers with optimized sleep, identifying microbes that drive that, and now isolating them to promote sleep health in the broader population. So a lot of this is very form fits function, but
Yeah.
Alex, I'll let you dive in.
Very different than melatonin or other sleep aids because they make you drowsy and sleepy. Nella doesn't do that. So it's more about a longer term effect, and this is a microbe that goes through the GI tract and takes a while to do it, and generally will not colonize. It's generally not going to stay in your gut, and that's why I do notice. For me personally, if I miss a dose, I do notice some relatively more difficulty getting quality sleep. But really the impact is really felt most clearly in the morning, just an overall sense of just more restfulness rather than making you drowsy or sleepy.
Yeah.
I think a couple of things that were really interesting is just some of the findings we had from the omic data that we collected during the clinical study around improvements in obviously gut dysbiosis biomarkers, but also reductions in oxidative stress, improvements in cortisol to testosterone ratio. So some of these factors that really are helping support the energy and the sleep connections that Nella is providing.
Yeah. Definitely a lot of gut immune kind of interactions and how it's mediating improved quality of sleep. Carolina, you said something interesting earlier, and actually, and Alex, you said something too. It's not necessarily, there are people that could, I guess, sleep for extended periods of time, but what Nella is doing is it's actually improving the quality of sleep. We're seeing fewer sleep disruptions throughout the night. We're seeing improved REM sleep. What we're also seeing is that it's helping people go to sleep more efficiently. And another thing we're hearing is that there's a lot of people that say they wake up in the middle of the night, and then once they wake up, they can't go back to sleep. But then they start taking Nella, and even if they do wake up, it's easier for them to get back to sleep. So that's a really big distinguishing factor, right? It's the quality of sleep that people are getting by using Nella.
Yeah, that's definitely me. Like with 2 kids, I used to be able to sleep anywhere, sleep really long. But with kids, I always get up in the middle of the night, and it would take me sometimes like an hour to fall back to sleep. And then I'm overthinking about what time I have to get up and whatnot. And definitely since taking Nella, like if I wake up, if I have to go get my daughter, I can fall asleep usually within like 15 minutes, which I think is great. And I still wake up. I don't feel drowsy. I feel ready to take on the day. So Nella is definitely in my daily arsenal.
Love it.
Yeah. And then just going back to like the science and clinicals, like, before I joined, this is definitely something that sets you guys apart, in my opinion, from other companies and brands is the science. Cause it seems like some other brands may not have the clinicals behind it, right?
Yeah, I think a lot of other brands sometimes make claims based off of studies done on various ingredients that they put in. And if they put the minimum requirements of that ingredient, they're allowed to make a claim around that benefit. But you don't know how it interacts with other ingredients that they've put into that formula. And so it's hard to really confirm that ingredient when in that finished formula is actually delivering the same benefits. And so people don't feel the benefits. They then don't trust supplements in general because they're like, well, everyone's telling me it's gonna fix the world and cure me in one pill. And that's obviously not reality for anyone, even us. Like it's part of a holistic diet, lifestyle, etc. But I think the amount of misguided information that's out there because of the way people can skirt around regulations is something that is creating a lot of distrust with consumers. And I think what we're doing is making sure that we're validating the finished formula. We're making sure that it works at the end. What consumers are putting in their bodies, we want to make sure that we're doing beyond the required amount of testing,
Yeah.
whether it's from a quality control, purity perspective, and making sure that we're getting third-party tested to make sure that what we say is in our product is really in our product. We don't have any extra or things are not missing that we say is in there. And I think being able to have that transparency and trust is really important. But yeah, the testing is something we take a lot of pride in.
Cool. So
And just to add to that, I mean, the clinical testing, which we take very seriously and generate a lot of data from, because this helps us understand much better how people are responding to it. But the even more fundamental way is that science, is part of this company is that the innovative nature and how these microbes are discovered, and particularly when we get into Vionella, something that's just completely new and different. And so not only is it in the strength of the clinical studies for validation, but really it comes to the discovery, the innovation of the products we have.
that's a great point and great segue. What else do you guys have coming down the innovation pipeline that you can speak to? Anyone?
Who wants to take this one? I mean,
You guys said this was your baby.
yeah, I guess I could start this, and I think it would be great if everyone chimes in from their perspective. But really excited to say that the company was actually founded, when we were spinning out of Harvard, because of this discovery we made and we published in Nature Medicine. So everything is form, fits, function. And we actually started our studies by working with super elite endurance athletes, like ultra marathon runners, like runners that run 100 miles at a time. And again, for such an extreme physiological trait, what is unique or enriched in our gut that's driving this? And what we discovered was this microorganism called Vionella. And it's actually really unique in its ability to eat lactic acid, which is a metabolite associated with fatigue, and then convert that into short chain fatty acids, which actually fight fatigue and promote endurance. So think about how science fiction-y this is, right? This microbe that's basically making these elite athletes run longer and reduce fatigue. And the only thing crazier than that is that it's actually science fact. And since that publication in Nature Medicine, we have actually come out of the lab. We've industrially scaled it. We've then moved to clinical validation studies, both in exercise performance, but then even just combating fatigue in the general population. So we're super excited to say that this now is a reality, and we're bringing Vionella to the market in the near term, much like we did with Nella. Now, again, it's more of a coming out party. We're sort of providing access to our community and, people that have been with us for the entire journey. But you could imagine just in the evolution of these bioscience, microbiome innovations, and bringing these things to fruition so that the real world could benefit from them. Something like Vionella is like a miracle of science that we're excited to bring to the world.
Cool. Very excited for that. Alex and Carolina, I'm sure there's more you want to say about it.
Yeah, there's a lot more I want to say, because this Vionella, the original discovery that we published in Nature Medicine, and the kind of the founding of the company of Fitbiomics, but much more than that to me, because once we discovered that, my academic lab is focused on understanding the intricate mechanisms and and fine detail of how this microbe Vionella promotes running ability, promotes decrease in fatigue, this feeling of overall more energy, and even new aspects that appear to be emerging, like motivation for running. So the science is so new, it's so cutting edge, that it's one of these discoveries that just raises so many new questions, and it will inevitably result in even more new discoveries and even more things that are just like science fiction. The deeper we go.
Yeah. And I'll just add,
I was gonna say the biggest question is how come we didn't discover Vionella sooner? And maybe that's because Fitbiomics is only 6 years old. So you know, it just, you know, obviously leads to the next question: how many more of these microbes are out there that we could discover and develop for health applications?
yeah, I think what's so exciting about Vionella is just how it's really such a novel microbe, but it really supports so many different people with different need states that are experiencing these effects of fatigue, exhaustion, you know, just the lack of endurance to push through a day or to PR, you know, whether you're just a woman who is trying to chase 2 kids around and hold down a job and get dinner cooked and keep a house clean, or if you're, you know, trying to run your next half marathon or ultra marathon or whatever it is. And I think just as we're seeing Vionella and all of our early seeding and testimonials is that it's helping so many people across different age groups, men and women, different lifestyles. People are very active, people who are not as active, and really just helping with fatigue and endurance in ways that we didn't expect. And so it's really exciting to see just the testimonials that we're getting back are people expressing life-changing experiences with Vionella. I mean, last night we had someone who's like, I will be taking this for the rest of my life. It is amazing what it has done for me. So
Yeah, because like fatigue, like I think some people might think of fatigue as just being like, oh, I'm just sleepy or whatever. No, it's like deeper than that. It's like a bigger health issue. And just, you know, there's a scale, obviously, but like for me, if I'm super fatigued, it's like it messes up my whole day and I don't do a lot of things or I get foggy, etc. But for some people, it could be even worse. So this is really, truly another game changer that I think a lot of people are really gonna want to get their hands on.
Let's just, you know, state it, right? Fatigue is like an epidemic, right? Especially coming out of the pandemic and stuff like that. And then, you know, let's also say it too. We live in a society, right? It's like the age of Ozempic. You know, 40% of the population is obese. So again, think about a microbe, a natural probiotic that's going to reduce fatigue in the general population and then sort of motivate people to be more physically active, right?
Mhm.
And to use exercise as medicine. And this is like a universal benefit that everyone should have access to, right? So this is the power of like, you know, biotech, microbiome innovations and seeing what's working in the super rare, super fit segment of the population and now making those learnings and innovations accessible to everyone. So, you know, this is really, really a huge milestone for the company and something we're excited to bring to people.
Nice. Well, with that, I don't think I have any further questions. I can leave it open to the chat, to the Q&A if anybody has any questions, if they want to drop them in. Feel free to do so now.
We also, you know, the other benefit of Vionella and reducing fatigue, you know, Carolina and Alex could now, you know, they've been working with me for 6 to 9 years. So they must be tired of me. So I actually created Vionella so they could continue to want to work with me, right? I had to solve Carolina's IBS. I had to solve sleep issues. Now I'm solving their fatigue. So, you know, really, I mean, this
Yeah,
is why we're creating these innovations.
of course. Kudos. Well, we have a question. So, can you take Vionella and Nella together? And are there any benefits?
Well, personally, I do. Whether there's any synergy, this isn't something that we've directly studied yet. However, Jonathan has been asking me this question for probably more than 3 years, and I still haven't done the experiments. I take them together, one in the morning, one in the night, and I don't think it really matters too much when you take it necessarily. There could be synergy as well, potentially because Nella produces lactic acid. It's a lactic acid producing, these are lactic acid producing microbes, and Vionella, of course, consumes lactic acid. So there might be some synergy with them together. Certainly, we don't expect any kind of necessarily issues with
Right.
using.
Biochemically, it's just so cool, this crosstalk. And a lot of people, I don't think, realize that lactic acid is actually a good thing. It's an energy source that's used by a lot of cells in our body, and even in the gut, it's beneficial. So think about, normally we increase lactic acid production through strenuous exercise, where Vionella could eat it and utilize it and benefit. But now imagine you have something like Nella that's producing lactic acid in the gut, that even independent of exercise, Vionella could consume. Now, again, as Alex said, we're still designing studies for that. I mean, you can't blame Harvard for being slow. I mean, we've only been asking for this for 3 years, but it's all good. We'll get to it one day. But right now, people are taking both at the same time and are seeing synergistic benefits. Imagine like a sleep cycle with Nella and then a wake cycle with Vionella. So you're essentially trying to optimize the entire circadian rhythm.
Yeah. And we have another question. Is it best to take Nella on an empty stomach? Are there any medicines that you should avoid when taking Nella?
We recommend users taking it first thing in the morning with a glass of water before breakfast. And consumers start noticing benefits within 7 to 10 days of when they start taking it. We haven't really done particular studies in terms of time of day when you take it, if there's a benefit. We just in general recommend first thing in the morning. It's the best thing to do. And thus far, we haven't seen any sort of inconsistencies or incompatibilities with other people's routines in terms of food or medication. So, but it's always good. I mean, I think if people are taking medications, it's always good to sort of consult their primary physician and doctors to make sure that, hey, I'm taking this probiotic. What do you think about that? Right.
Yeah.
So we would always recommend that if there's any sort of questions or concerns.
I think the most important thing is to try to be consistent. So whatever's going to be easiest to incorporate in your routine, if it's first thing in the morning, if it's, before bed, I think everyone is unique. So being able to really evaluate what works for you. As John said, I think the majority of people do try to stick with first thing in the morning, right before you have a breakfast. But it's my time, but everyone is different.
And again, speaking from anecdotes, I take it on an empty stomach. This is fine. I don't think that there's necessarily an issue with that. Generally, it's always better to take medicines with food, but there's an issue. And in terms of interactions with other medications, Nella, we've studied in large hundreds of people, and gathered data. We haven't noticed any problematic interactions, but as Jonathan mentioned, it's important to keep your primary care physician apprised of probiotics or any other supplements you take.
Cool. Thank you. Any other questions? Any parting words from the founders or anything before we end? Really great discussion. Every time you guys talk, I'm always learning something new, even though you've told me a lot of this before, but it's just like really an interesting space. So thank you.
I think something new. By the way, I had no idea that women have longer GI tracts than that. Alex, actually, I didn't know that you were taking Nella, and Camille, I didn't even know you were taking Nella.
What?
I didn't know that.
For so long. And Vionella. And because of you, I take Nella in the morning and Vionella at night.
I just thought
Vionella at night.
Swap them.
Wait, you took Vionella at night and
No, I took Vionella in the morning and Nella at night. I switched my routine because John mentioned it. I was like, oh, this makes sense.
Camille, I just thought you liked us. I thought that's why you wanted to work with us. Now you're telling me that's not true. You're like Carolina and Alex. You're only with us because you're benefiting from the products.
Well,
I hand it out to my peeps in my community. I almost have like a bag. I'm like, you need to try this, and I'm mobilizing the people.
Camille, your husband loves Vionella, right?
Loves it. He's like, does 2 a days now. Like, and he had stomach issues and loves Nella too. And I can attest that it's definitely better around here. We'll edit that.
I don't know, like Camille, I would ask you, right? Like, what made you, I guess, so passionate and eager to join this journey? And, Alex has seen it for 9 years, Carolina's seen it for 6 years, and you've seen it for like maybe less than 6 months, right? So I'd be curious to hear that.
I think I'm like low-key a science nerd, even though I always got like a B in like B or C in biology, but like I want to know why things work. And I want the proof points. And also I'm on this like, maybe because once I turned 40, 42 now, I've just been really into health and wellness and like focusing on what goes into my body and like how can I prep my body and my mind for like the second half of my life or whatever. That might sound a little deep, but like just really into this space, really into science. You guys are super cool. So it's just a kind of nice little package there.
Amen. That's what we're doing. We're bringing a little bit of pop culture to biotech. I always say we're bringing a little bit of, oh, this is perfect. You reminded me. We're bringing a little hip hop to biotech. And on that note, 30-year anniversary of Illmatic. Shout out to Nas, one of the greatest albums of all time, right? So this is what we're doing, right? Bridging the gap and sort of bringing a level of coolness, yet still, efficacy to sort of consumer health, and longevity. So really cool stuff.
I will say, I'm surprised that John, you and Alex didn't have a little comedy skit going today.
This was the comedy skit. I thought that's what we were doing. No? Oh, okay. I mean, listen, whenever you could convince a Harvard professor to stake his career on collecting microbiome samples from elite athletes, I mean, it turns out the joke's on Alex because now the lab is focused on it. So I've been waiting to deliver that punchline for 9 years. So we got it.
Love it.
On that note, we got a little shout out from one of our attendees. Thank you. This was so helpful. Love you guys and Nella. You guys are amazing. Thank you.
Oh, that's nice.
I also want to give a shout out to, I'd like to give a shout, man, we're really sticking with that. I'd like to give a shout out. I want to give a shout out to Alex Evans, my basketball coach at St. John's, one of our co-founders as well. I want to give a shout out to George Church, the Jordan of genomics. I want to give a shout out to Alex West, our data manager. Shout out to Yessie, our supply chain manager, and just all the amazing, great people that we work with. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes that folks don't see. These are not magic pills. They're science pills, and a lot goes into developing them. So yeah, thank you to everyone on the team making this happen.
Awesome.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys. Have a good weekend. Bye.
Bye.